Hello there and welcome to another edition of Channels Beam, and I'm Victor Matthias. Now, the recent outbreak of cerebral spinal meningitis in the country in recent times has forced the federal government to deploy epidemiologists and vaccines to arrest the outbreak. But what could have been responsible for this recent trend, and what could be done to reverse it? That's part of our focus on the program today, and we will also be looking at how depression, that's its causes, and of course, what to do when it sets in. But first, let's take a look at the top trends in the past week. This hashtag went viral after a date between two Twitter friends went awry and led to an exchange of words. Well, after the exchange, one came out tops and the other was asked to keep the change. And as always, the month of April always comes with pranks on the first day. For those who forgot, they got pranked before being told it was April Fool's Day. But then I hope you weren't part of those who got pranks, but let's now join our online contributors to begin the discussion of the day. All right, so what could have resulted in the outbreak of this epidemic?
Primarily, it is as a result, I will attribute it primarily as a result to low standard of living in Nigeria per se. I mean, we're talking about Nigeria. If you look at the places where the outbreaks are currently, you will find out that there are places of low socioeconomic standards. And so there are places where people get to share things, where people live in minimal space. And you see, all of this contribute to the spreading of meningitis because, it can be bacterial, it can be viral. And you see that probably these places are places where hygiene are not kept. I mean, the laws of hygiene are not kept. So I think the main reason for the spreading of this is a low standard of living, a low socioeconomic standard, and also, let me use the word, low standard of healthcare in Nigeria. How many primary health centers do we have? How quick could they have arrested this when it started, before it starts to spread? So I think these are reasons why Nigeria has high recurrence rate when it comes to meningitis.
Just like Dr. Bamishai Victor have said, one of the basic causes of meningitis, or one of the root causes of meningitis, particularly in Africa in general, is primarily directed to poor hygiene and low socioeconomic class, just as he has pointed out. And why am I saying this? Very well, like particularly one of the causes of meningitis, which is Listeria meningitis, listeriosis, it's gotten from basically eating of uncooked food, poor refrigeration, or poor sterilization of food, a lot of poor management of food substances like vegetables, meat, and all that. And we know particularly in areas like the northern part of Nigeria, where these things, where they are low economic class, poor hygiene and all that, these people tend to eat this food without taking proper sanitation, without proper, preservations of this food. So basically, due to poor socio-economic class and poor hygiene, these diseases will skyrocket in areas in the northern part of Nigeria.
Victor, going by these causes you both enumerated, same factors can also be found in big cities, talking about Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt, and even others. But in these cities, people trooping in thousands daily, yet we haven't heard of such. Why is that?
All you need to get the outbreak is just one person with the disease, one person contacting it or contracting it. Yeah. So when that one person contracts it, in places of high population, it's a very huge risk. So the fact that it's not in Lagos does not mean Lagos is not at risk. Lagos is at high risk because of the high population, and it's very, little space also in Lagos. So that is why I think the government, any government, treats meningitis as a matter of emergency. And you can see with the rapt response from the federal government, they are meeting the World Health Organization tomorrow to see how they can release more vaccines, which are usually in little quantity, worldwide. And so Lagos, any big populated city, is at risk. So all that has happened in these areas is that, in these areas that we have mentioned, is that they have low socioeconomic lifestyle and probably the thriving of the microorganisms that are responsible for this. Do you understand my point? So if peradventure one of them should migrate to Lagos today, there's every high risk, there's every possibility that it will become an epidemic in Lagos.
So are you saying we need to start guarding who comes in and out of the cities at the moment?
What I'm saying is that we need to try to contain it where it is right now and go through the primary measures of vaccination of every child right now.
Well, talking about vaccination, Komi, let me come back to you. This outbreak is in 5 states. Do the health officials or agencies have enough to go around?
Yeah, basically, what I think the government should now focus at is ensuring that they get the current people that are suffering from this meningitis and also those that are potential carriers of this, because of bacteria and viruses that causes this meningitis are aerophilic. That means they are airborne. So it's very, very important for the government, basically, or the health agencies to identify the affected and try as much as they can to isolate them from the environment. Because if I understand the kind of settlements in Nigeria, particularly in a city like Lagos, the place is very congested. And when you have a bacteria or an infection that is airborne, it is quite easy, like Dr. Victor have said, for every other person to get it. So basically what the government should do right now, since we don't have enough in quantity, try as much as it can to seek for help from the World Health Organization and get this vaccine. As you are seeking for this help, it's also important for you to get the people that are infected already and isolate them from the environment.
All right, so but what is the survival possibility if it is detected in someone, especially when that happens early?
Early detection, like I said, is the key. Rate is, that's the prognosis is good, it's quite good, depending on the strain of the bacteria or the virus involved. But basically on the normal rate, the survival rate is cool, but also can be very fatal as well, depending on the strain as well. So the most important thing is early detection. Early detection. If these patients are detected early enough and are given prompt medical care, I believe quite a lot of them will survive. But if they come in at the end or the late stages, of course, the mortality rate will be very, very high. So I think early detection is the key. There should be a sporadic intervention by medical personnel to going into various areas and trying as much as they can. If they see a basic symptom of meningitis on any patient at all in the hospital, they should try as much as they can to attend to the patient as soon as possible.
Well, Victor, tell us about the symptoms of this disease, that's meningitis.
All right, so the symptoms are headache, stiff neck, and sometimes altered consciousness, and there's vomiting. There is also fever, and there could be photophobia. Photophobia is the person is scared of light. The person is scared of light. So when you see these things, you can suspect that this person has meningitis. Although yes, the all symptoms are called meningism, but you can easily suspect meningitis until lumbar puncture and other tests are done to confirm this. But to suspect immediately, you see the signs and you try your best to get to the nearest health center that is as soon as possible.
Well, if Nigeria is to seek help from, say, WHO, UNICEF, and all these international agencies. What areas should the focus be on?
I think the main area where they need focus on is in getting vaccines. Usually, pharmaceuticals are one of the world's most expensive businesses that you can find around. So, getting drugs and vaccines are very expensive, and this is largely due to the amount that is spent in research too. So, I think the main area where they will need help is in getting these vaccines. World Health Organization can hardly help any country structure their policies towards health. So that should be a Nigerian thing, and we should know what suits us best. But generally, we would need help in getting these vaccines and probably help in treatment protocols, because as medicine advances, treatment protocols also advances. So I think these are the major areas where we will need to focus on.
Well, you have mentioned immunization as one of the ways to stop this disease. If this is to happen, how far can it even go in stopping the spread or even eliminating or eradicating the disease totally?
It's going to go a very long way. It's going to help greatly. Looking at taking Ukraine as a case study and making reference to a similar kind of outbreak like we are experiencing in Nigeria that was experienced in Ukraine a couple of years ago, which is the avian flu. I think also a couple of them were experiencing some. They engaged rapid immunization of all newborn babies and also children within the age of 0 and 5 years old. And within a period of 6-7 years, Ukraine was able to eradicate the avian flu from their system. So I believe if Nigeria is able to engage that kind of approach as well and ensure that all newborn babies are being immunized, and also people within the ages of 0 or from 1 year old to at least 8, 9, 10 years old are being immunized, I think it's going to really help to eradicate this pandemic or epidemic that is already engaging.
Well, so research has shown that these outbreaks occur in the dry season due to its perhaps low humidity and dusty conditions, and it usually ends with the onset of the rainy season. Why is that so?
Mostly during the dry season. It's very, very important. Like I made mention before, one of the causative agents or etiology of meningitis is Listeria meningitis. And Listeria meningitis is known as a psychrophilic bacteria. What do I mean by psychrophilic? That means it grows more in cold environment, and it's also stable in the environment. So particularly in dry season, they replicate much more faster. Neisseria meningitis and all other bacteria that also causes meningitis as well. So in that temperature, in that particular period or that season, they replicate more. So there is high replication. And also, since they are aerophilic, that means they are airborne. In dry season, we know that there are a lot of dust and a lot of movement of particles here and there. So people easily inhale them and people easily contract them. So they replicate more in that season, and they are easily distributed amongst congested populations within that period of time.
All right, guys, thanks for coming on the program. We do hope that with all these measures that you all enumerated, hopefully they've been put in place, and then this outbreak can be contained. And of course, hopefully, again, the disease will be eradicated totally from Nigeria. But then thanks for coming again on the program and sharing your thoughts. That's where we have to leave it on this segment of the program. We'll take a quick break and we'll be back with another perspective. Stay with us.